The report from charity Anglicare says affordability is the worst it's ever been.
More bad news for renters this morning. Australians now facing the highest rental prices, get this, of all time.
We've been given a major warning tonight about social housing. Inject billions of dollars for years to come or face a major crisis. A new report finding a lack of action could also trigger a surge in youth crime.
Once a form of stability and a cornerstone of personal wealth, home ownership in Australia has transformed from an achievable dream into an unattainable reality. The narrative of housing in Australia from the post-war boom to the current day reveals a widening gap of affordability. In this video, I will put my spin on the evolution of the crisis, exploring the impact of economic forces, government policies, and societal shifts that have shaped the landscape of Australian housing today. Hopefully this video shows you what was once a rite of passage for many Australians has now become a source of significant economic and social tension. Number one, the early years, foundations of the dream. In the 1950s, Australia was rebuilding and growing rapidly after the devastations of World War II. The government, eager to promote stability and growth, facilitated access to affordable housing and had tax laws like the land value tax that kept people from holding onto land as a speculative asset because they would be held accountable to pay taxes on the value of that land. Loans and government subsidies were common, enabling families to purchase homes at prices that were typically about 3.5 times the average annual income. Home ownership was within reach for the average Australian, symbolising both a safe haven and a secure investment. This was a time when a single income was sufficient to secure a roof over one's head. This period marked the golden era of the Australian dream, where economic prosperity made it possible for many to own a piece of land. Number two, the economic boom, stability and affordability. As Australia prospered through the 1980s, the dream of home ownership remained intact. The cost of purchasing a home still averaged around 3.5 times a family's annual income. Dual income households became more common, enhancing the buying power of families and sustaining the affordability of homes relative to incomes. This period underscored a phase of economic optimism where upward mobility through home ownership was both celebrated and expected. Homes were seen not just as places to live, but as secure investments that offered financial security and were likely to appreciate in value. The societal belief in real estate as a fail-safe investment began to take root during this relatively stable economic period. Number three, the turn of the millennium, the onset of a crisis. The new millennium marked the beginning of a stark transformation in the housing market. From 2000 onwards, house prices began to rise at a rate that far outstripped average income growth. This shift was fueled by a complex mixture of factors including relaxed lending standards by banks, speculative real estate investments, and a series of government policies that inadvertently drove prices upwards. Tax incentives for property investments like the inheritance tax and the halving of the capital gains tax, along with limited controls on foreign ownership, exacerbated the situation, creating a speculative bubble that saw prices detach from traditional economic fundamentals. The dream of home ownership started to slip away from many as the market dynamics shifted towards favouring investors over first-time home buyers. Number four, the unaffordability era. Today, the average Australian family faces a housing market where homes cost approximately 7.5 times their annual income. This ratio more than doubles the historical average, placing immense pressure on new home buyers and creating a generational divide in wealth. The narrative has shifted from home ownership as a feasible goal to a critical social issue, dividing the nation into property owners and those locked out of the market. The affordability crisis is now a central economic concern, affecting everything from consumer spending to national policies. With both partners in a household now required to work full-time jobs merely to service mortgage debt, the Australian dream has become overshadowed by the reality of lifelong debt and economic insecurity. Number 5, the path forward. Reimagining the Australian dream. Addressing the housing affordability crisis requires a multifaceted approach. Reforms in zoning and planning laws to increase supply, revising tax policies that favour property investments like the capital gains tax and the inheritance tax, along with implementing tax laws like the land value tax to reduce housing speculation, and implementing stricter lending criteria could help tamper runaway prices. Also, innovative housing solutions such as cooperative housing, long-term leasing models, and government-supported affordable housing projects could provide relief for those struggling to enter the market, rather than the government add to the problem with incentives like the 5 government guarantee scheme, and these include the First Home Buyer Assistance Scheme, First Home Owner Grant, Shared Equity Home Buyer Helper, and the First Home Super Saver Scheme, and the Home Guarantee Scheme. All these incentives do nothing to make housing affordable. In fact, they actually do the opposite and drive prices higher. The future of the Australian housing market depends on courageous and innovative policy decisions that prioritise long-term sustainability over short-term gains. The transformation of housing in Australia from a symbol of security and prosperity to a source of economic division is a compelling example of change. It challenges not only the policymakers but every Australian to rethink the values that underpin our society. As we move forward, the dream of home ownership must be recalibrated to ensure it is neither a luxury for the few nor an unreachable dream for many, but a sustainable and inclusive goal for all Australians. Housing in Australia and around the world is a human right, and it should be recognised as an essential need for all of society. I really hope you got some good information from this video. If you did, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.